What I'll do is I'll turn the visibility back on, those other objects. Okay, now sometimes you'd want to work on objects, but you don't necessarily want the other objects to be invisible. In that case, we need to look at the middle of each layer. In the middle here, you have this little space. If I click on that space, say for the cone layer, it comes up with a letter T. That stands for template. But if you look at the way the cone is displayed now, you can clearly see that it is no longer solid. Not only that, but if I try to select it, I find that I can't do that. Even though I can see an outline of it, I can't directly select it or edit it. So in this case, I can have the cone in template mode, know where it is, and quite happily work on objects around it. If I click in that little space again where the letter T is, it comes up with the letter R. That stands for reference. A reference, objects appear differently, they appear solid, but I still can't directly select it and edit it. For the time being, however, template mode is the one that we'll be using most of. To toggle through the different modes, you just click in that space, so template mode, click again, reference mode, click again, normal editable visible mode. Okay, now to remove objects that are in layers, what I do is select the cone, right click on the layer and go remove selected objects. So if now for the cone layer, turn off the visibility, you can see it makes no difference to the cone object because it's no longer in the layer. If you want to add the object back to the layer, you select it, right click and add selected object. Okay, what I'll quickly do is show you a scene which contains many objects and as a consequence uses many layers to organize those objects. So for example, if I go down to say the road area, zoom out, just get it in a view, road, then you can see turn on and off visibility, that whole road section is invisible. So I'll put it on template. I'll go to another one, let's say Carol's house. So Carol's house is over here. I put it in template mode, I can do that, and so on and so forth. So you can see I can have virtually all the layers in template mode, so I can still know where all those objects are, but I may need to focus on one part of the scene to work on without all the other objects getting in the way. So for example, if I want to work on the roof area, I'll select it, but I need to make sure that I'm actually working in the roof layer. Now you can still go from object to object irrespective of which layer you've got selected, but what might happen is, for example, if I'm working say on the roof and I've got another layer selected, I can still work on the roof, but what can happen is the roof, this object, leaves that layer and goes into the current layer that you're working with. So the level of organization that you need is therefore quite important to be able to stay on the ball and keep track of where you're working at any point in time. Okay, so to delete layers, what you need to do is right click on the layer and go delete layer. So deleting layer doesn't delete the object. Okay, the object just simply passes into the initial default space. So I can quite happily go and delete all the layers and the objects are still where they need to be. So in essence, they've been put back to the original default space.